Council meeting of August 17th, 2021 is called to order. And we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll have Jeff Knight lead us tonight.
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. How about a roll call, Donna?
Okay. Councilmember Nesco.
Here.
Mayor Gurke.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Peterson.
Here.
Councilmember Schmidt.
Here.
Councilmember Bode.
Here.
Councilmember McDowell.
Present.
And Councilmember Feast is absent tonight. Mayor.
I move to excuse Councilmember Feast from tonight's meeting.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to excuse Councilmember Megan Feast. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion granted. All right. Council members, have any late changes to our agenda tonight? Not? We'll move on to council member reports. Anyone have one?
Go for it.
Joe does.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, last Friday, I got invited from Councilmember Onisco and Commissioner Judy. We toured a couple of housing developments in Olympia that were constructed and managed by the Low Income Housing Institute, also known as LEHI. So if you ever hear that acronym, that's what that stands for. But they showed us the tiny home village. They also showed us the new construction on Martin Way in Pattison, as well as the Billy Frank Jr. on downtown Olympia there, and talked about, from soup to nuts, kind of how they got those projects off the ground. And while we all are struggling with the housing situation in every city, all of the same things that come up in support and opposition, all the same sorts of things were discussed and dealt with that we've been across. So it's kind of in a way reassuring to know that these problems aren't necessarily unique to Shelton, but that there's also opportunities that I think could work and could be good partnerships between the city, the county, and nonprofits in the future to help combat housing. And just wanted to express, I think those types of field trips are good, and encourage others, if you're interested, to go check that out. So, Thanks for being there.
Anyone else?
I didn't have quite a report, but more of a shout out to, gosh, I can't even start to name everybody. We just recently were working on some sewer and water taps, and working with the city was phenomenal. Just the way that everybody stepped up and made things happen, even when especially when there were problems. Everybody was really right there and did an amazing job. So I wish I could go down the list, but there's just too many to name.
Great.
All right, thank you. All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as published?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to our general public comment, where members of the public can provide comment on any topic at this time. And I also want to say that public, if they're listening, can call Jeff Knighton or email Jeff Knighton. And those numbers are on the website. So, Donna, do we have anyone tonight?
I will go check while I do our 30-second delay.
We'll do a 30-second delay.
At QFC, we think fresh and local go together. Your savings is the icing on the
It
cake.
could be way worse, buddy.
I was actually going to do the Jeopardy song, but as a commercial first.
Yeah, there you go.
Is there copyright?
Yeah.
I'm sure there are,
Sorry about
actually.
YouTube will be, yeah.
I've been wanting to do that for half a year.
That's 30 seconds, Mr. Mayor. There's no one signed up.
All right, thank you. Okay, we are recessing from a regular meeting to an open public hearing. And we're going to hear from Finance Director Aaron B. Miller He's going to share information about updating the Shelton Municipal Code.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Deputy Mayor and council members. Aaron B. Miller with the city's finance department. The ordinance before you is really just a cleanup ordinance of Shelton Municipal Code 8.08. Back in 2017, the city contracted with Waste Connections for garbage services, and our code really hasn't been updated, so it's got very old language in there. It has rates back to 2015 and all of that kind of stuff, container sizes. That's all now done by the contractor. So what we've done here is we've gone through and eliminated most of the code that no longer is relevant. The sections that are remaining, there's 4 sections, and most of those sections were in the code originally. The only change really is what we have under section 8.08020, means of providing service, and it just says that per state law, we can contract this out, and if the city so chooses to do so. I also want to say, importantly, we have left the compulsory language in there that businesses and residents, it's compulsory that they use garbage services. One of the things that we're going to be doing, and we'll talk about in the next business agenda item, is updating some administrative processes that we have with that to further delineate between that. But really what this allows is for the city to continue to have compulsory services. If those, the penalty phase of that, if someone is not doing that, would go through code enforcement. Currently, we use finance and we use kind of utility billing as that kind of stick, if you will. We're no longer going to be doing that. So if there is an issue, code enforcement would go, and there is a penalty that I think it's up to 90 days in jail and up to $1,000 fine, or both. So again, we're trying to separate out here a little bit the city from the garbage contract, and letting the contractor just handle the garbage process, the solid waste process. And happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Let's go back to the penalty phase. So if they don't have garbage, they can go to jail?
That's a misdemeanor. That's basically the max penalty for a misdemeanor. One class, I'm not sure which one it is. I seriously doubt that will ever happen over this particular issue, but it's will be the same for any code enforcement issue, regardless of whether it's lack of garbage or anything else.
So let me understand this. So if someone just decided they wanted to haul their own garbage to the garbage dump, and they'd never had any garbage to be picked up at their house, they would get fined?
It's because the city has a compulsory garbage service. You are required to have garbage service. There needs to be a method of enforcing that compulsory service.
Okay.
How long is our contract with them again?
Boy, I think it goes, it's several years.
Yeah.
Several years.
Quite a
number
long
of
time.
years, yeah.
It was a 20-year contract.
Yeah. And it was
What,
signed
3 years?
17 we started.
Yeah. And we still have the no water, no garbage clause. If they go to Arizona for the winter and they don't have water, then they don't have to pay for garbage.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's one of the things with us separating out and letting the contractor do that, is it's going to be easier for that kind of suspension, if you will, to happen.
Suspension if you want to turn your water service off.
Yes, if you're a snowbirder.
Yeah.
All right. Has anyone signed up for public testimony here, Donna?
And we'll start
Take-
the 30-second delay.
Okay.
Go check.
right.
30 seconds.
Thank you. In that case, can we have the first reading of ordinance number 1973-0621?
Yes, ordinance number 1973-0621, an ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington, amending Chapter 8.08 of the Shelton Municipal Code relating to solid waste collections.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I move that,
That we forward this ordinance, I move that we forward this ordinance to the September 7th city council meeting for further consideration.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any council members have any questions or comments for Mr. B. Miller?
I mean, we're changing this to, is violation now, or is that later? The penalties,
The penalty is already in place,
Yeah.
so that nothing changes there.
to misdemeanor though, we're changing that
No.
now?
Yeah, the language for the penalty is the exact same that's in code now as it's continuing forward.
Yeah. That hasn't changed.
But it was coming from the accounting, now it's going to code enforcement?
The collections part of it was going, was from, through the finance and accounting department. Now we're transferring the enforcement of that to code enforcement, so our finance staff can work with numbers and do what they do, rather than, collections.
I mean, I'd like to see some kind of a scale before we change it to a misdemeanor. I mean, is it, we go to the door, it's a warning, and
Oh,
then we
it's-
go at the second time, and maybe it's a,
No, it's not a misdemeanor right off the bat. I can share that with you for sure.
Yeah.
I think to Councilmember Onisco's point, while it's written and it can be, somebody willfully violates, disobeys, or neglects and refuses to comply, that we can essentially arrest them for it. I would think, there's an education component,
Oh, yeah.
and there's all of that other stuff. However, because code enforcement is an issue in the city, I believe there needs to be some teeth behind this. So I'm okay with the language being what it is, as long as we're going through it and, educate first and all that other stuff. But
That is the absolute last resort after going through the process with the court here. That, to be quite honest with you, I don't ever expect that to happen.
Yeah.
It has to be somebody that, just absolutely refuses to do anything, and even then, it's doubtful that we're going to house somebody in the county facility for that particular issue.
Correct. Seems to me there was, like a warning, and then another warning, and then we'll work with you.
but
know.
where is that?
I think
We're all not gonna be here one day. I mean, we could all be different people, and, I mean, where's the scale and how we're gonna handle
So I
these?
think what we can do is add language here when we bring it back. It's in Chapter 7, and I can't remember the exact, but under code enforcement, it does detail out the steps the city must take. And so we could add that, in accordance with X, Y, and Z. So we could certainly do that.
Okay,
And then
I mean,
that-
I would make me more comfortable. I mean,
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's future councils, future administrators and staff that could just say, oh, we're gonna go write a ticket. Boom.
Yeah, chapter 7 of our code details that for all code enforcement activities, not just garbage service. But we can, we can add that language, and I'll send you that particular section so you can look it over.
So, a little more clear on this. So a person pays their garbage bill each month, but they choose to take their garbage to the garbage dump for some reason.
Mhm.
That, as long as they're paying their garbage bill,
Yeah, as long as-
But when they refuse to pay their garbage bill,
Mhm.
they're taking their garbage to the garbage dump or wherever,
Or not.
or not, that's right. Then that's, okay, I got it.
That's when the code enforcement process would start. And again, that starts with the education piece, We have this, and then,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, and that's a good point. Director B. Miller brought it up. I'm looking at it right now. It prescribes A, B, step A, step B, step C. First is investigation, B is correction, notice of violation, goes through the whole process. I think, you just simply can prescribe that.
Right.
Because that's, I think, going to meet the need.
I think that will get us there.
I like the enforcement part. I've just never been a fan of this forced garbage service, because I can take almost a dump trailer worth of my own personal garbage to the dump for $24. And what I have to pay for a garbage can that doesn't fit my garbage, because I still take garbage to the dump every month. So I'm not a fan of it, but
it
I
has
can't
to be,
change that.
has to be done because,
It does, but I agree, the enforcement part is there. If
Yeah.
you're not taking your garbage away, there should be enforcement, but I don't feel like you should be forced to have garbage service. But like I said, there's nothing I can do about that, so.
All right. Anyone else? We have a motion and a second to forward this ordinance to the September 7th City Council meeting for further consideration. All in favor, say aye.
With new language,
With new language.
with new language.
With new language. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. We have another item from Aaron, a contract amendment with Waste Connections.
Thank you again. What is before you is the second amendment to the agreement between the city and our garbage collection contract with Waste Connections. Back in 2017, July of 2017, I believe it was, the city signed a long-term contract with Waste Connections to provide garbage and recycling service to the city. Soon after that, I think it was even that next meeting in July, there was the first amendment that came through that included language on how delinquencies would be treated. And it's very convoluted. It's hard to manage through, and both the city finance department and utilities, billing, and Waste Connections have wanted to update it, and that's what this does. Really, what this does is it, again, provides further separation between how Waste Connections does their business and how the response for delinquencies. And so after a period of time, let's see, I think it's after 30 days following an issuance notice of late payment that would be issued by the garbage contractor. The contractor may suspend solid waste and recycle services to the customer. After 90 days then, the contractor can actually go and use their collection process in order to receive those payments. This is where the code really comes into play. So if they pull the cans and they suspend service because of non-payment, they go and they put them on, they go to collections agencies and so on and so forth. If the garbage starts to pile up, that's where our code can step in and try to help mediate the matter between the code and them having the garbage service. Now how it works, if I can say it in a nutshell, the Waste Connections sends information to us. We add the late fees to their utility bill, and they keep billing for that service to that, so that fee keeps on coming higher and higher. And then if someone does send a check, for instance, or goes to Waste Connections to make that payment, because of the process that we have, they're told, no, we can't take that payment anymore. You have to go to the city to make that payment. And so they come to the city and we pay it and hand it over, and we take that and hand it over to Waste Connections. There's a lot of moving parts in there that we believe are unnecessary. And what this will do is, again, try to further define what steps that Waste Connections can take on delinquencies, and then, again, based on our code, we have code enforcement should some garbage start to pile up. Both Waste Connections and the city are in favor of this amendment, and we think it will help smooth a lot of the arduous process out for us. So that's what this amendment does. Again, it's more just on the administrative side of collections and delinquencies. And happy to answer any questions you might have.
So before, if I'm not mistaken on how it worked, if you weren't paying your garbage bill, it came over, and if it accumulated too much, wouldn't we suspend water service?
We could, yes.
So we're removing that.
Yes,
So
we
now-
are
now
taking
there's-
water
we're-
service, garbage
Perfect.
service, and
Perfect, because that always felt pretty pretty off as well to me, that we were, one, enforcers, and two, we're going to suspend another service that is necessary. If the garbage isn't necessary because you can remove your own, you're not bringing in your own potable water, though.
Right. This takes those two, separates them.
I agree with James' comments. Also, the way it was working, wasn't it, and by the way, I agree with this ordinance, it was kind of messy.
Yeah.
But they were canceling that account, transferring the whole balance over to the city, starting a new account.
Okay?
So,
It was dirty.
So is that still going on?
No, this will also fix that. That account is the Waste Connections account, and it doesn't have anything. How Waste Connections wants to handle that is on them, but the city is not part of that process.
So none of that's coming back to the city?
That's right.
The past due balances? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It'd make things a lot cleaner, more efficient, and a lot less confusing for the customer.
Oh,
Yeah, and we think Waste Connections and us both think it's a better way to do things.
cool.
So we're officially out of the garbage business?
That's correct.
Just a
Well, sort of.
Just a quick question. Because it's a compulsory service, that means that even if there's delinquency on the account, it doesn't mean that the garbage does not get picked up, correct?
So what this does is it transfers, they can pull the cans and go through their process to get the delinquent payments and go through collections. While they're in that process, they let us know. They say, we've pulled cans from 123, Coda Street. And we then can know that we need to start paying attention, and code enforcement can keep an eye on to see what's happening on that end. It's still a compulsory service, and so we still have that code enforcement penalty phase, but we're giving it time, I guess you would say, to let Waste Connections go through their process. And if need be, we would go through the code enforcement process on our side.
But they're in violation the minute the garbage can gets picked up?
Yes.
Not
Technically,
when the garbage piles up. When the garbage can is gone, they're in violation.
technically,
So we would code enforce on somebody who just wasn't paying their bill, or only on somebody who's piling up garbage?
No, well, we would code enforce on someone who's not following the compulsory garbage requirement.
And before we sold our solid waste, it was still compulsory. Yeah,
And that language was in the contract for the garbage service.
yes.
so, yeah.
And I think this has been clarified. I'm going to ask it one more time, but just so it's clear. This is not, so if somebody goes in arrears, Waste Connections shuts off their account, now they're in violation because Waste Connections is not going to pick up the garbage, and they do not have garbage service.
Mhm.
And Waste Connection fees them a $21, $25 account, reestablishment fee, plus this, plus that. I just want to make sure we're not like doubling down on somebody who falls in arrears on their account for a month or something like that.
That's where the progressive part of Chapter 7 starts. That's, we talk to the people, we'll even, our code enforcement officer, our current one, Shannon, goes out and she has the vouchers that she gives, to help people in those situations. We are not, nor will we ever look to penalize right off the bat. It's help, educate, we will do everything we can to help you get to where the service needs to be.
Okay. We'll pause for 30 seconds. See if anyone signed up for public testimony.
Thanks for all the answers, Aaron.
No one has signed up, and that's 30 seconds.
Hey, Donna, you're getting faster at this. All right. So do we have a motion?
I move that we forward this amendment to the September 7th City Council meeting for further discussion, consideration.
Second.
All right, I think we've done our comments and questions, right?
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second to forward this amendment to the September 7th City Council meeting for further consideration. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. All right, thank you, Aaron. Now, if you want to wipe, yeah, okay. Wipe that down.
Donna reminded me, Mayor reminded me, one of these days I'll remember.
Next, we're going to have Police Chief Carol Beeson with details about surplusing police vehicles.
Good evening,
Hello.
Mayor Dorsey, Deputy Mayor, and members of City Council. I'm here to request a surplus of 3 police vehicles that have far exceeded their shelf life as police vehicles. The 3 vehicles in question are all Ford Crown Victorias from 2004 to 2008. Ford no longer makes the Crown Victorias anymore, so we're having a hard time finding parts to maintain these vehicles. It's become a lot more costly to keep them, and because of the amount of miles that we put on these cars, after a while, they're just not as safe to drive. So we'd like to surplus these 3 vehicles. 2 of them are still operable. The 3rd one had been in an accident, and we've been using it more as a training tool, so that one will have to be, you laugh, but you'd be amazed what you can use a spare car for. The 3rd one would just be scrap metal at this point. We estimate conservatively, we'd probably get about $2,100 for the 3 vehicles
Total?
total.
Yeah. All right, so we need to pause for 30 seconds while Donna makes her trip to the,
And it's gonna be fast, because Mr. Ziegler's out there watching the farm.
When we surplus, do we send them to an auction?
We send all surplus vehicles to, well, and I'll answer him.
Okay.
No public comment, Mr. Mayor.
all right, thank you. So can I get a motion, please?
I move that we forward this resolution to the September 7th City Council meeting for further consideration.
Second.
All right, any questions for Ms. Beeson?
Councilmember
Somebody-
Bode had asked a question about the surplus process.
Yeah,
So surplus, we take all our vehicles to Tumwater for the state surplus sale. Basically, they sell them for us. It makes it very convenient. We don't have to dedicate an employee to talk to prospective buyers or anything like that. And we get roughly the same amount we would otherwise.
Awesome.
They just charge a buyer's premium or something?
Yeah.
And could we get more for these? That seems kind of cheap for a 2006 and 2008 Crown Victoria.
But you got to understand that police officers don't drive their vehicles like normal people do. You know, they spend 12-hour shifts driving those cars around, and so they get a lot more wear and tear on them than normal people put on their cars.
And if I remember correctly, all 3 of these have been retired once from other police departments around the state of Washington.
It's entirely possible that they are new to us
Time to
cars.
send them to the boneyard.
okay. We have a motion and a second to forward this resolution to the September 7th City Council meeting for further consideration. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, girl.
All right, so our last business item is a resolution to approve city inclusion with Mason County in a comprehensive solid waste management plan. Jeff Knighton will have the details for us tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council. Tonight before you, we have basically in addition to something we've been doing for quite some time, RCW 70A.205 requires each county within the state to prepare a comprehensive solid waste management plan. I will not try to pronounce the acronym. In 2006, the City of Shelton Commission at that time passed a resolution that authorized Mason County to include the City of Shelton in its comprehensive waste management plan. Each county is required to periodically update the plan, and receive approval from any joint municipalities prior to the submission to the Department of Ecology. In 2018, the City Council, in October of 2018, the City Council authorized the Public Works Director to sign a letter of concurrence approving the updated Comprehensive Waste Management Plan. And early this month, the city staff received a notice from Mason County that new legislation requires local jurisdictions to adopt a contamination reduction and outreach plan as part of their comprehensive solid waste management plan. That is included as Appendix J in your packet, and this resolution provides the council's approval for myself to sign the letter of concurrence on the city's behalf. This valuable partnership with Mason County not only saves the city valuable staff time, but also avoids duplicate efforts with the county. And I would be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
All right, let's pause 30 seconds for a public comment.
So can I ask a question? You may-
Following the public comment.
Okay.
Yeah, after public comment and after motion.
Okay.
No public comment, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion, please?
Moving forward, resolution number 1206-0821 to the September 7th council meeting action agenda for further consideration.
Second.
All right, at this time, I'd like to ask council members to ask questions or comments.
So does this tie in with the transfer station, the garbage? So
Yeah.
would it be upkeep, upgrades, making it bigger?
Not so much making it bigger, it's just a plan in place to reduce. A lot of that has to do with the recycling program.
Okay.
So you reduce what's actually going into the landfill, or attempt as best you can to reduce the amount of waste going to the landfill.
Okay.
All right. We have a motion and a second to forward resolution number 1206-0821 to the September 7th City Council meeting action agenda for further consideration. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right. Now on to the action agenda. And we're going to have City Manager Jeff Knighton to share information about a franchise agreement with PUD 3.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council. The city staff and representatives of PUD 3 have been working on this franchise agreement for quite some time, as you all know. And this agreement benefits the citizens of Shelton. It protects the city's interests, and it protects the individual utilities' needs. The agreement grants a non-exclusive franchise to PUD 3 for a primary term of 10 years. And council heard this item at their August 3rd regular business meeting, and there have been no changes since that time. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Once again, we'll pause for 30 seconds for public
You're
comment.
getting your exercise today, Don.
Yeah.
No public comment, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. And now we'll have the second reading of ordinance number 1963-1220.
Ordinance number 1963-1220, an ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington, granting a non-exclusive franchise for the transmission, distribution, and sale of electricity.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve ordinance number 1963-1220 as presented.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Just a comment.
Okay.
Just want to thank the city manager for getting us through. This is the last. I recall 3 years ago when we started down this journey, we had 0. Well, I think we had 1, but we had basically no franchise agreements. And thanks for seeing this.
Yeah, this was actually one of his,
Check this one off.
one of the first things you were working on, wasn't it? Right off the get-go. So that's been, what, almost 3 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the city manager as well, tackling all of these franchise agreements that we have not had or not been adequate agreements, and your staff for tackling all these the last couple of years.
All right. We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 1963-1220 as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Our last item this evening, presented by Community Development Director Mark Ziegler, has to do with the Civic Center Rotating Art Gallery.
Thank
Mark?
you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. Once again, we're bringing you recommendations from the Shelton Arts Commission for placement in the rotating art gallery out in the Civic Center. The Shelton Arts Commission went through the process of calling for artists publicly. We had 4 artists submit and 8 total pieces of work. And all 4 artists and all 8 pieces are being recommended to bring forward to you today for placement starting August 31st, and they would be up in the Civic Center through November 30th with your approval.
Okay. Once again, we'll pause for public comment.
No public comment, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion, please?
I move to approve the Shelton Art Commission's recommendations for placement in the Civic Center Rotating Art Gallery.
Second.
All right. Any questions or comments for Mark?
No.
Go ahead, Kathy.
I do. Are we going to proceed with more covers, art covers for the boxes that are around town?
Not at this point. We can look at that again next year because there are a couple of the traffic boxes, but they're owned by the state, so we'd have to work through with the state of Washington to get those accomplished.
Okay. Those look great. Very good.
I love looking at these pictures. You know, it'd be awesome if the Art Commission had some kind of a contest of people drawing something from Shelton historically, or something that's here now, the bridge on First Street, or something like that, and then, you know, the council can pick the best one, and maybe the city can buy it and hang it in the lobby or something. I think that'd be kind of cool. We have a lot of historical sites that somebody can paint.
Yep.
But I don't know if they'll do that or not, but.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
All right. We have a motion and a second to approve Shelton Arts Commission's recommendations for placement in the Civic Center Rotating Art Gallery. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, let's move on to Jeff, City Manager Report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of council. Just a couple of things tonight. First, I wanted to mention that unfortunately, the last Timber Days event for this year is scheduled for the 20th and the 21st, coming up this weekend. I say unfortunately because I'm really looking forward to it, but it's also the last one for this year.
Although, there is still the Forest Festival festivities on September 18th, so more to look forward to.
Very true, very true. So looking forward to that coming up this weekend. The other thing I wanted to mention is the Chalk the Walk event that happened today. That was a lot of fun. Many of the team members here at the city took a walk around. Some of them even did their own artwork today. and everybody had a great time, and I was very glad that it was in the mid-70s and not as hot as it has been. So that was an enjoyable walk around town today. Those are the only two things I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
I have had two separate people ask me about the film program that we were looking into, recycle the film bags.
So that has quieted down quite a bit. If you remember, we didn't have a start date on that because there was some issues with the number of employees that were necessary, and they weren't able to find those employees. However, with the new ban statewide coming into effect, October 1st, I believe, I'm not sure of the direction that SC Johnson was going with that program. I can certainly reach out and find out if they're still planning to pursue it and let council know. My assumption would be, though, with that ban in place, that I wouldn't imagine that it would be in their interest to continue.
All right. I had to share something. I was running around pretty ragged today, and I drove up Fifth Street one time, and I was turning left to go up the hill, up Mountain View, and I looked to the right, and there was a gal laying on the sidewalk, and I went, oh gosh, I better go look and see what this is. And then I saw, as I looked again, there's a girl drawing chalk around her body. So I decided to leave it alone. Anyway, there's no more items for discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I forget this often, and I apologize for that, but just go over you're looking ahead for our next meeting, our next regular business meeting on September 7th. We do have surplus property discussion on your business agenda there, along with the water comprehensive plan that will be discussed as well. And then we have the action items for the things that you heard tonight, which include the surplus vehicle, updating Municipal Code 8.08, and that type of thing. And I will do my best not to forget this next time. I know I do it often. I'll try not to do it again.
Can I clarify one thing?
Yeah.
Water comp plan has been moved to like December.
Oh.
Since the publication of our packet, so.
Glad Donna's here. Okay.
Can we discuss if we want to go back to Zoom meetings or not, or is that for another time?
I'm willing to talk about it. I think we need to do it if that's what's, recommended by Inslee, right? I mean, what's the directive going to be?
So I haven't seen anything as of yet. As far as a directive, there's been encouragement coming from the governor's office, but not a directive. It's certainly up to council. We have the method set up. We used it for almost a year and a half to conduct regular council business meetings. We can certainly go back to that if council feels comfortable.
What if we, would you consult Dave Wyndham at the Mason County Board of Health?
I can.
On what he feels?
I can. I've seen the information coming out of the health department that encourages mask wearing for all individuals, vaccinated or not.
Well, the county is having Zoom meetings as well, and so are all the other cities. Lacey, Tumwater, Olympia are all under Zoom meetings.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a weird format in here, but the people sitting out there and maybe coming in and all that stuff, I just thought that, if we can't have a real council meeting, that maybe we should go back to Zooms until this is over. I think this is the same as kind of a Zoom. We got people out there watching us on a screen, and then they come in, and I just think that the Zoom would probably be better. That's just my opinion.
I'll do whatever, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a recommendation, not a mandate. And I have no concerns of being here with everyone. And I'm tired of sitting at home. I have a hard time paying attention.
You could come to my house and do yard work.
That would be great. So I'll do yard work while you guys are having a council meeting and come out. Hey, we voted yet.
Yeah. You're pushing your little wheelbarrow over here.
I don't care one way or the other, really, but I do suggest strongly that we do not do what MTA is doing and having some people at home on Zoom and some people,
Yeah.
and that is just a farce. It's just, I'm sorry to say it, but it's tough.
Yeah.
They can't hear us, it's either their system, because they have speakers laying on the table, but not enough of them. And so it makes it really hard to make a motion, because they can't hear you. So anyway, that would be my recommendation,
Yeah, so.
one way or the other.
I think the consensus that I hear from council is that we go back to that format for the foreseeable future, at least until we get, we see numbers in the state going down. And if that's the direction we want to go, I definitely want to make sure that the public is fully aware of how we will be meeting and how they can access and comment on public agenda items, so we can get that information out tomorrow.
Now, will that be for all meetings or for study sessions where the public is welcome to attend? I mean, to me, that's just us meeting. Doesn't make sense to continue. But I don't know if we don't want to confuse folks by having two different methods.
Well, public can come to all of our meetings, so.
Right, but there's not a dedicated
Yeah.
component for them to interact with council in the same way that there is here. They're welcome to
Right,
observe always.
They can watch,
Right.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I don't know, yeah.
So
Good idea,
I
good point.
will send an email out to each of you tomorrow morning, and then individually reply to me with the direction you'd like to go, and we'll make that happen. Okay?
Okay. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, September 7th, 2021, at 6 PM. This meeting is adjourned at 6:47.